Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about one of my absolute favorite topics of conversation, and that is side hustles. Specifically, why everyone should have a side hustle. More specifically, I've got 4 main points for you, so let's go ahead and get into those now. So the first reason why everyone should have a side hustle is redundancy. And that can be pretty well summed up by this quote from Daniel Vassallo on Twitter, and he wrote, "Don't let your livelihood have a single point of failure. If you want peace of mind, diversify your means of securing the basic necessities. There's a reason why we have 2 lungs and 2 kidneys, redundancy over efficiency." And that's pretty much the idea behind redundancy. So basically, you don't want your income to have a single point of failure, as Daniel says. And when you're completely reliant upon your 9-to-5 job for securing the basic necessities, food, shelter, transportation, you're basically at risk. And this is basically thinking about your income as you would think about your investment portfolio. So if you know anything about investments, you know, generally speaking, the advice is to diversify. And that means you're spreading your risks across a variety of investments and types of investments. I think it's pretty interesting that we use that logic to talk about investments, but we don't seem to apply it to income in general. But the same idea applies. You essentially want to spread your risks, and you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket as it pertains to your income. By diversifying your income streams, you achieve peace of mind, because the idea is that if you lose one income stream, you can still rely on the other one. So that is redundancy. Let's talk about the next idea, which is leverage. So in this context, I mean leverage more in terms of like a negotiation type of leverage. And this applies to all areas, but especially I think at work. And the reason is that you end up negotiating a lot of different things at work and as part of doing your job, even if it doesn't necessarily seem like it. So the most obvious of these is salary. I think a lot of people that are completely reliant upon their job for income are understandably worried about losing it. But the result of being worried about losing your job, I think, is that you may not negotiate as hard for the things that you actually want. So that could be definitely salary, but also the nature of your work. So the projects you work on, your responsibilities, your title, your role. All those things I think are really important. I think having leverage also kind of lowers your tolerance for the kinds of stuff that you'll put up with. So if you're completely reliant upon your job, you basically have to put up with whatever's thrown at you, and you can't really push back, especially if you're worried about losing your job. But if you have a significant side hustle or something that is at least, you know, helping to pay your bills, I think that just gives a sense of confidence. It gives an opportunity to draw firmer boundaries, and you're freer to ask for what you really want, because in theory, you're not as scared to lose a job. And that is a really powerful thing. Now, of course, there's other ways to get leverage at work. It could be in the form of relational capital or a hot job market. But I think a side hustle is a great way to secure more leverage in your day-to-day job. All right, let's talk about the third point, which is learning. So I think for a lot of people, a side hustle focuses around learning a new skill. So for example, let's say I'm a software engineer, which I am, but let's say I wanted to be a photographer on the side. I have plenty of friends that do something completely different for work than they do with their side hustle. And in those cases, you're learning new skills kind of by default. But for a lot of people, a side hustle centers around skills that they already have. And I think in those cases, you're still learning, because in theory, you're getting assignments and responsibilities that are different from what you're doing in your day-to-day job. You have more autonomy and authority and responsibility. Having a side hustle, even if it pertains to skills that you already have or use in your day-to-day job, is going to be really beneficial for you. If nothing else, you're going to be learning skills around bookkeeping and talking to clients and securing business and doing sales. All the things that go into running your own business, even if you don't consider it quote unquote a business. So either way, you're going to be learning, and regardless, every new gig or client or skill you pick up is going to make you more valuable in the market. And as you continue with your side hustle, you continue to learn and you continue to acquire those skills, and that is a great thing. And that brings us to our last point, which is it's fun. I think side hustling is fun, or ideally it should be, if you're using your free time outside of work to pursue this business or this project. We want to be having fun. I think learning in and of itself is fun, so that pertains to the last point. But I think side hustling for a lot of people is simply a creative outlet where people can express themselves, learn new skills, as I mentioned, but also just to have a place where they can create and be themselves. I think it's also fun to have a sense of ownership over something as well, to have a sense that this is kind of your thing that you're doing that nobody else really has a say over, where you can kind of call the shots to implement your creative vision and develop as a person. I think that's really fun as well. So regardless of how you're framing it, I think there's a lot of ways to approach side hustling in a way that maximizes fun in your life. And in my opinion, that's how it should be. So we talked about redundancy, leverage, learning, and fun. Let me know, why do you side hustle? What are the things that get you excited to do your craft or your project or work with your clients? I'd love to know. I'd love to know any tips you might have. Love hearing from you guys. And I try to respond to every comment. If you're still here, you'd probably like the rest of my channel, which focuses on tech, self-improvement, and personal finance. So consider subscribing. Thanks so much for watching to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.